Okay, we'll move on to the roll call.
Commissioner Seifert,
Here.
Commissioner Blanco,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez,
Here.
Commissioner Mohajer,
Here.
Chair Dickerson.
Here. Next, we need to move on to the approval of the Plan Commission minutes from the May 21st meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look at them, or does anybody have any comments about them? If not, we need a motion.
I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
A second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
We'll abstain. I'll abstain. I wasn't here for the meeting.
I'll
Thank you.
abstain as well.
Thank you. Okay, public comment period. Speakers may provide public comments on any matter within the subject matter's jurisdiction of the commission. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes, maximum 15 minutes for public comment period. Unless a majority of the commission objects, the chair may provide speakers more or less time to speak. All comments or queries shall be addressed to the commission as a body and not to any specific member thereof. Do we have any written communication? Public or Zoom? Okay. Is there anybody out there that would like to speak on any topic not already addressed on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the public hearings. And I just want to let the public know that there's going to be a minor shift in items. So 5B will now be moved to the end of the evening. It'll become 5C, and then 5C will shift down to 5B. They're swapping. But we will start off with Industrial Parkway battery storage request for time extension at 2916 Industrial Parkway. Can we hear from staff?
Thank you, Chair. I'm Frank Albro, Principal Planner. We have before the Commission tonight a time extension for an approved plan development permit. There we go. And the site is located at 2916 Industrial Parkway. The Planning Commission approved the plan development permit for the BESS facility, Battery Energy Storage System facility, on August 3rd, 2022. The 1 acre site is adjacent to other PDM1 zoned properties, as you can see on both the north, south, and the east and west sides. There's various industrial developments surrounding the property, and then to the east, one industrial lot with a storage facility, and then towards the west is the Santa Maria Country Club golf course with residential units on the opposite side. The development was approved with 8 individual battery storage containers, approximately 10-foot tall units. It's a 10 megawatt facility. In comparison, the Moss Landing facility was 630 megawatts. There is a 6-foot tall decorative masonry wall highlighted in the pink towards the street frontage. And then 6-foot fence with a 1-foot length of barbed wire would be on the north and the south sides, as well as on the west side of the area, east side, excuse me, of the area. The green represents the landscaping out in the front. And so that's a 10-foot wide tree planting easement plus additional space to the wall. Here's some examples of the types of containers that would be placed on the facility. So here's the approved landscape plan with the interior of the yard being very utilitarian. The focus at the time of the approval was to place the majority of the landscape along the street frontage and also along the northern perimeter of the property to provide the most screening possible. So again, this is a time extension for an already approved plan development permit. The findings for a time extension is that the commission can grant the time extension if it finds that there has been adequate due diligence to implement and complete the permit or that there were significant economic factors that justify additional time. In this case, the applicant has secured the ownership of the property, has worked with utilities on an interconnection agreement, and also a power purchase agreement. And the applicant is in the audience and also has a presentation where they're going to go into more detail on those items. I would like to just mention that the recently adopted BES ordinance that was adopted by City Council last month does not apply to this time extension. This time extension is only asking this finding. And so if this time extension were to be approved, the permit would remain valid until August 18th, 2027. So I do want to just speak a little bit more about the BES ordinance that was adopted. The ordinance was focused on grid-tied energy storage systems. In other words, systems that would receive energy directly from the grid and then return that energy to the grid. We were calling that front-of-the-meter facility. And this is indeed one of those front-of-the-meter facilities that will be providing power back into the grid. Again, I mentioned it was a 10 megawatt system. So that BES ordinance also limited the sites to M2 zone sites. This is an M1 zone site. It also required separation from other sensitive users such as residential, hospital. The Planning Commission and the council agreed to add the agricultural land uses to those sensitive receptors that this would have to be distanced from. And then finally, the ordinance also required a emergency response and action plan be provided to the city, developed in association with the city's fire department and police department. So again, the ordinance does not apply, but in many ways, this proposal does comply with the ordinance. Like I mentioned earlier, it is not in an M2 zone. However, it is more than a quarter mile from any adjacent residential or agriculture, hospital or such. And the applicant is going to be providing an emergency response and action plan. They've already contacted our fire department and have started working on that plan with the fire department. So that concludes the presentation. I do want to mention that we did receive 3 comment letters, 1 in opposition and 2 in support of the time extension. We also have additional information that the applicant wanted to provide to the commission, which was passed out before the meeting started to the commissioner's dais on the actual liquid-cooled container facility with the batteries. So that provides additional information. So the recommendation to commission is that by motion, the commission approve the time extension A 2025-0004, granting a 2-year time extension for the plan development permit PD 2021-0012. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for questions. And once again, the applicant team is in attendance and they do have a presentation they'd like to provide the commission.
Thank you, Frank. Any questions for Frank at this time?
Thank you, Chair. I don't see a letter anywhere, Frank. Do we get a copy of those, or did I not get my email? Or?
They were emailed to you, but I do have extra copies, so I can pass those out right now.
Okay, I don't see them, so thanks. That'd be great.
You have a question for Frank?
No, I had ex parte communication.
Well, I was going to bring that
Okay.
up next. Okay. We might as well leap right into that. Before we have the applicant give their presentation, is there any ex parte communication between commissioners and the applicant?
Yeah, Chair, I had some ex parte at a Zoom meeting.
Okay?
Yeah, I had some emails also from Urban Planning Concepts.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I had a remote meeting yesterday.
Chair, I also had a remote meeting with the team headed by Lori Tamura from Urban Planning Concepts.
Don't I feel sad? I was the only one not invited to the party. Oh, well. That's okay. Can we hear from the applicant, please? Sir, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, thank you. My name is Brendan Conboy. I'm a permitting manager with Renewable Properties. Just want to start by saying thank you for the opportunity to present tonight and provide some more information on this. I'm joined tonight by my colleagues at Renewable Properties as well as our consultants and subject matter experts. So with me tonight I have Sam Booth, he's our Director of Energy Storage. Stephanie Lucas, she's our Chief Development Officer. We have Dan Murray. He is with the Energy Safety Response Group, and they're preparing our ERP. And lastly, we have our legal counsel, Matt Stone from Koblenz Law. Okay. So we're here tonight to respectfully request a 2-year extension of the previously approved permit for the Industrial Parkway Battery Energy Storage System, based off the merits of Section 12-35.501D, as Frank described, which requires that there has been adequate due diligence to complete the permit and that there are significant economic factors that justify the additional time. We're prepared to go through the due diligence to date that we've done. I'll do that shortly. I'm also going to provide a brief overview of the project, describe the work we've completed, and explain why the extension is both appropriate and necessary. In between that, I'm going to hand the mic off to my colleague Sam Booth, who will speak about the value of energy storage and the technology, and then we'll also hand it off to Dan Murray from ESRG to talk about our emergency response planning. Okay, so I haven't used this yet. Is that the next one? There we go. So a little bit about ourselves, Renewable Properties. We are a national developer, financier, owner, and operator of clean energy infrastructure. We focus on community scale solar PV, battery energy storage systems, and electric vehicle charging projects. As you might be aware, we have a project here in Santa Maria on Fairway Avenue. That's for fleet electric vehicles as well. In regards to our development pipeline, we have over 1 gigawatt of clean energy projects currently in development across 15 different states. And just for context, 1 gigawatt is approximately the amount of energy required to power the city of San Francisco. We also have 11 projects currently in active permitting in California. And then within our construction pipeline, we have 9 projects currently under construction in 4 states, and 3 of those are in California. And in terms of our operational projects, we have 26 projects in operation totaling over 150 megawatts, 9 of which are in California. And we are primarily an owner-operator, which means that we develop our sites to ensure that the long-term safety, compliance, and performance are all being met. As with all of our projects, we strive to be a true community partner. We take a contextual approach to each of our sites that we develop that reflects the needs and concerns of the community. Okay, so moving on to the project details. In terms of a project overview, the Industrial Parkway BEST site, as Frank mentioned, is a 10 megawatt, 60 megawatt hour facility that can provide energy to approximately 8,000 homes for up to 4 hours. I actually ran the numbers. I think there's 29,000 households in Santa Maria, so that's about a quarter to a third of the households in Santa Maria. As Frank mentioned, the permit was approved unanimously on August 3rd, 2022. It was reviewed by all the city departments, including fire at the time. The project is located within a light industrial zone, and it's surrounded by compatible uses, as Frank described. And it was found to be in compliance with the City of Santa Maria's general plan for light industrial district land use and the M1 zoning district at the time. My colleague Sam will go over some of these details more, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but as Frank mentioned, the site is over a quarter mile from the nearest home and agricultural uses. We have a robust safety design. We are preparing a full emergency response plan in coordination with ESRG. I hear the sirens right now. And the project is in compliance with all major codes and standards. This site will not be open to the public. It has no daily employees. and it generates minimal traffic or an operational noise. Okay, moving on, I'm going to go through some of the project milestones that we've done to date that establish the criteria for the extension. So over the past 4 or 5 years, we've moved the project forward deliberately and steadily, making major financial, technical, and regulatory commitments. Starting in 2021, with site acquisition and the early development, we evaluated over 10 separate sites in Santa Maria after a solicitation from the Central Coast Community Energy, also known as 3CE. We entered a purchase agreement for the site in March of that year. We began environmental studies, utility coordination, and permitting preparation, and we submitted our planned development permit application in November of that year. We also initiated our interconnection application with PG&E. In 2022, the PDP was unanimously approved, as we mentioned in August. We continued our technical studies and engaged with CAISO to begin what's known as a full capacity deliverability status, which is a kind of technical thing that Sam can go into a little bit more detail on, but it's a long and arduous, hard process, but essentially related to our interconnection. In 2022, we also submitted financial security for interconnection and advanced the project design. In 2023, we continued coordination with PG&E and CAISO on the grid capacity. We did additional site design and access refinements. We continued development of the site-specific technical plans. In 2024, some major milestones in capital deployment that occurred was that we purchased the property outright, so we are the owner now. PG&E allocated the FCDS that I mentioned, which secured our grid capacity. We also executed a power purchase agreement with 3CE. We posted significant financial security to maintain the interconnection rights, and we ordered the battery systems, which are now stateside and ready for staging. Lastly, we selected a nationally recognized EPC firm, and we've advanced the project at this stage to 30% design. More recently, in 2025, we are working on the final pre-construction milestones. We have design nearing permit-ready status. We're preparing to submit for building and grading permits by September. And this year alone, we've invested heavily in the design finalization, fire code compliance, equipment readiness, and environmental coordination. In total, we've invested well over 7 figures into this project. This is a real shovel-ready infrastructure effort that reflects years of work in coordination with the city staff and regional agencies. So all that remains at this point for us is to secure our final permit so that we can begin construction. And this extension is the last step that we need to break ground for a fully funded, fully contracted, and utility-approved project. At this point, I'm going to hand the mic off to my colleague Sam Booth, who's going to talk about the value of energy storage and some of our safety measures. There you go.
Thanks, Brendan, and thank you all for having us here. Sam Booth, Director of Energy Storage for Renewable Properties. So I wanted to start and just take a step back a little bit and tell you a little bit why we build projects like this. Energy storage provides a variety of benefits to the power grid as a whole. So it helps improve the resiliency of the grid, the sustainability of the grid, and the overall cost efficiency of the grid. A little bit about that. Like resiliency on peak loads, the energy storage is there to supply that peak load power. So think about that as like the summertime when all the air conditioning is running. It's there to supply those last electrons. Or if there's a grid disturbance, as Brendan mentioned, this battery can power about 8,000 homes for 4 hours. So it provides that additional resiliency and support. It also provides power quality support. So if there's a plant that goes down, if there's clouds that go over solar panels, it helps balance out the fluctuations in the grid. In addition, it provides cost savings by deferring investments in the transmission and distribution grid and shifting renewable power from low-cost times to more higher value times. So not during the day, but more in the evening, and reducing the running of peaking power plants. Brendan mentioned resource adequacy a little bit, so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So that's a process with the California Independent System Operator, where each of the utilities, or the CCA here in this case, they're required to provide peak load power to help maintain the grid during those high load times. So this is a process you go through and you get interconnected. It took us about 3 years to get this. It's a big value to 3CE here, and one of the kind of big benefits of this project is that local resource adequacy. So a little bit more on kind of safety. Our permit had certain requirements and things that we had to comply with. The project's fully compliant with all the codes, standards, and permits requirements. So the batteries have UL listing and certifications. That's 9540 and 9540A, compliant with the fire code and the NFPA as well. All the kind of requested physical site security measures will be in place. So that's things like the CMU wall, the fences, the gates, locks, and it meets all requirements for the state and federal air quality and material handling. A little bit more about the project kind of design and features. We are really prioritizing safety at every stage for this project. So this project is using LFP chemistry. What that means, it's the lithium iron phosphate chemistry. So the cathode on the battery is made from lithium iron and phosphate compound, as opposed to, let's say, the Moss Landing project that was using an NMC chemistry. So that's lithium, nickel, manganese, and cobalt. There's two main benefits of that. The iron phosphate bonds are more stable, they're stronger, so it's more thermally stable, and it doesn't have those heavy metals, the nickel, the manganese, and cobalt in the battery at all. So kind of a key difference there is that different chemistry. Another key difference is our units are containerized. So you saw the pictures are in basically steel containers. In the Moss Landing, the batteries were in open racks inside a building. So we're outdoors, we're in steel containers. The containers are separated physically so that you don't have the same propagation risk from that. Next, a little bit more about the kind of monitoring and management systems we're employing. The batteries have 3 detection systems. So they have temperature measurement at every cell in the battery, and they're tracking that temperature in the battery and looking for increases in temperature. It also has flammable gas detectors in the battery and smoke detectors in the battery as well. So there's a whole kind of array of detection systems within each unit, as well as an aerosol-based fire suppression system within the unit. And as Brendan mentioned, this project is a quarter mile from the identified sensitive receptors. In addition to all those things, we've partnered with ESRG to work on that emergency response plan and the training. So I'm going to invite Dan up now from ESRG, and he's going to kind of cover the details of a little bit more about that and what that entails.
Good afternoon. So ESRG, we're a consulting firm, energy safety response group. So our founders and the employees are all from the fire service. I'm a 32-year-old veteran of the New York City Fire Service, and I'm currently in charge of hazmat operations. So that's the background. To get more into the safety of the system being proposed here, as Sam was saying, the chemistry is much safer with the lithium iron phosphate. What we do is we develop the emergency response plan as per California code. And that's a site-specific plan that addresses the concerns that responders would have if there were ever an incident at this particular site. With that comes training the local fire service, the fire department here in Santa Maria. We would do that in conjunction with their chiefs and their officers and firefighters to make sure that we did a walkthrough of the site where they could see everything firsthand, get an understanding of the particulars of what needs to be done if there were ever an issue. And then we'll also follow up with, we usually do a PowerPoint and a tabletop exercise. So I've been doing this training all over the country, and the firefighters in general are very happy with the results, and they feel comfortable after the training, and they can adjust their standard operating procedures accordingly to the training that we deliver. The basic, the way I train the guys is to treat it pretty much like a substation, as they would an electrical substation, not to take any aggressive firefighting action. Generally, minimal water is required. If they use water, it would be to protect the exposures, the cool down exposures from the involved container, if that were ever to happen. They also, in case an alarm was signaled, they would have to respond. In most cases, they'll respond and there'll be nothing going on. There's a phone number available at the entrance to the site that they can call, speak to a subject matter expert 24 hours a day, and get the live monitoring that is available to them that would tell them what's going on with the system, if there were a concern, and what they should do. So.
Thanks, Dan. I'm just going to offer some concluding remarks here. Okay. So in conclusion, this project is well sited and consistent with Santa Maria's zoning and energy goals. It was unanimously approved in 2022, and it meets the spirit and the letter of the city's new BESS ordinance. In accordance with your code, we've made significant financial and technical progress, and we're on track to begin construction imminently. This extension request is not about restarting a dormant project. It's about finishing a carefully executed one. And approval of this extension will contribute meaningfully to clean energy investment and initiatives within the city of Santa Maria. With that, we respectfully request your support in approving this time extension so that we can complete the work that's well underway. And we would ask if you have any questions at this time, we're happy to answer them, and I might call on some of my colleagues here to answer them if they're more technical in nature.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Questions for the applicant? I'll start. Commissioner Seifert.
Thank you, Chair. So we got 12 feet in between the units. I don't know what the volatility of these units are. I mean, has that been tested? Is that far enough away from one unit, not starting another unit on fire? How does that all work? We've got 19 feet, or actually more than 19 between them lengthwise, but sideways is about 12 feet.
So the 12-foot is a result of the UL 9540A testing. And in the UL 9540A testing, what they do is an outside consultant that's authorized to do the testing will actually force the unit into thermal runaway and make it go on fire, and then they determine via heat flux what the proper distance is so that you wouldn't have any propagation of heat from one unit to the next. So that's how they come up with the 12-foot. So, it keeps it, if there ever were a fully involved container, it would keep it contained to that one unit.
And more than likely, if there was a problem in a unit, it would just be affecting that one unit, then is that what I'm hearing?
It should only affect that one unit.
How long does something like this burn?
Usually within 4 hours is the time period when it would fully self-consume.
And because of the new battery technology, we've eliminated a lot of the hazardous materials that are going to be burning? Is that what I
That's
heard?
the lithium iron phosphate battery cell chemistry. It doesn't contain the same heavy metals that we had in the nickel manganese cobalt chemistries, as you saw in Moss Landing. And a lot of the industry now for stationary energy storage is moving towards the LFP model because it doesn't contain those heavy metals. And the reason they use the other chemistry, like in your cell phone, it still has the NMC chemistry, is because it holds more energy for the size and weight of that type of battery cell. So it's more efficient for like a electric vehicle or for a cell phone, but for a stationary system like this where weight isn't the issue, they can use the less efficient energy storage chemistry, which is safer and doesn't contain those heavy metals.
And that's what we moved to?
And that's what this system's going to use.
And then
That's
you're
called
confident
LFP.
that these new systems, I mean, this is a very self-contained, what I think I heard that every cell is monitored in the system?
Every cell's monitored. There's an alarm system that goes to a central station. So if the smoke and heat detector is activated, that would alert the fire department for a response. That would also activate, there's a aerosol fire extinguishment system inside the unit. Now that doesn't actually put out battery cells, but if there were ever an incidental fire, like in the electrical system, it would extinguish that before anything involved the cells. There's also if there's a gas detection system, if it notices the gases from a battery that's going into failure, it activates a fan, an exhaust fan, and opens louvers to vent the system before it could possibly reach the explosive levels. And then if that fails, these are all based on NFPA and UL standards. And if that ventilation system failed, it also has a built-in deflagration panel system on the top. So if there ever were a deflagration, it would direct the energy up and away from where the responders could be staging, and we recommend for them 100 feet away from the container itself if there ever were something.
So this is basically the latest and greatest technology that we can come up with for a battery storage unit.
I would say so, yeah.
Firewalls. And so I'm guessing that there is, I guess you already answered this question, so that the sidewalls are protected? That's so that, because if I'm not mistaken, the fire is going to start with one cell.
Correct.
And then that cell is going to generate heat, and then it's going to get the cell next to it that had nothing wrong with it?
Well, it shouldn't. They're designed now that it should end with that one cell and not propagate to the other cells.
Because of this new battery technology?
Because of the battery technology, and that's what the testing in the UL 9540A actually tests, is they test driving a battery cell into runaway to see if it propagates to neighboring cells.
So with the testing, they're saying that each cell is going to be an individual problem, and more than likely, we're not going to have that runaway that we saw.
More than likely, nothing's perfect,
Of
unfortunately.
course, no, I understand that. But to the best of our knowledge, we've done everything we can to alleviate that situation.
Yes, and that's what our group does, is we do the destructive testing as well. So it generally takes a lot of effort to force propagation to happen. So,
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Seifert. Commissioner Lopez?
I don't have any at this time.
Commissioner Blanco?
Thank you, Chair. Just curious on what kind of temperatures, normal operating temperatures, would you see around these cells? I mean, what kind of increase in temperature would you expect?
The normal operating range is about 60 degrees. I think we go from 30 to 90 Fahrenheit, but that's what the design is for. And the battery has a liquid cooling system because it does generate a little bit of heat when it operates to dissipate that heat.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mahajan? Not at this time. A couple of questions I have. Sir, the gentleman is the fire guy. So you'd said that the part of the training should be for our fire crews is what you call a minimum levels of response. Well, and some minor amount of water. What is it that our fire crews do to actually put the fire out, or what happens? I mean, does it just burn itself out?
Essentially, they don't.
Okay.
The goal of the training is the safety of the firefighters, because that's really, if there's a life hazard, that's it. To date, no firefighters have been killed from a BESS system fire. There was one case in Arizona with old technology where there were some injuries, but what I try to teach them is don't even enter the fenced area. If there is a fire, you call the subject matter experts and you go with their advice, but we don't want anyone entering, not just because of the fire and possible explosive or anything, but there's a lot of electricity in there. So we say treat it like you would any of the electrical substations you have in your area. In New York City, our firefighters never enter those without the advice of the utility operator. In this case, it would be without the advice of the system operator.
So it becomes a case-by-case situation as they contact the experts, and the experts say, what do you see?
Yeah, what do you see on your the remote monitoring that the operator is able to do? They could pretty much tell you, yeah, we had a smoke detector activation. We're monitoring the cells. Maybe they had a cell failure in one of the units, but there's really nothing that they're going to do on scene other than protect themselves. If there was a fire, they would monitor for carbon monoxide in the surrounding area, and then if they deem necessary through the advice of the subject matter expert, possibly use water to cool an exposed container if they thought there was a flame impingement or something like that. But we don't want them to try to put the fire out.
So you want the firefighters back 100 feet, but you said that it's basically safe having 12 foot between these units. I mean, in theory, then isn't it 12 feet for a firefighter also? I mean,
No, I wouldn't want a firefighter even entering the fenced area, just mostly, and that's primarily because of the electrical hazard.
Okay. In regards to the new technology with the lithium ion pulsate.
A lithium iron phosphate.
Thank you. In regards to that, if one of these cooked off, and you said, I think they have about a 4-hour burn, what are we looking at? And I recognize that we've jettisoned a lot of the heavy metals that they had up in Moss Landing and that kind of thing. But are we looking at environmental issues? I mean, things that get in the atmosphere, being pulled through the wind or the groundwater?
Most of the gases that come off are flammable. Carbon monoxide, hydrogen, and carbon dioxide. They're going to burn up. If there's a fire, they're going to burn off. If it's off-gassing, they're generally lighter than air. They're going to dissipate. The other contents are, in addition to the cells, is just the wiring, the plastics involved. So what I tell the firefighters is we pretty much treat it like we would any structural fire, whether it's a house or a car or a factory or something. If your CO meter is picking up CO, then you're not in a good spot. You should be wearing your SCBA. And firefighters are equipped with the proper PPE, SCBA, the training, and the ability to monitor. Almost every firefighter has a CO meter on their person, typically.
With the new technology and the way these have developed, do you see a worst case scenario? I mean, what is in your mind a worst case scenario? Do you see something that would kick these off or have some sort of a perpetual fire going like up in Moss Landing, or is that just not in the cards anymore?
So Moss Landing was a completely different situation. Not only was it older technology and it was the nickel, manganese, cobalt chemistry, but they built this system in a warehouse. It was an old, I think, electrical generating building. So the building wasn't designed to house batteries. There were no battery containers, so there was no real separation between all the modules of batteries. So once this thing started burning, there was really no way to stop it. And like they were saying, I think it was the biggest energy storage system in the country at the time. Also being in a building, once the building got involved and now there's structural damage, the only option they basically had was to back off and just keep dumping water on it. Whereas the way these systems are designed, the whole area is designed specifically to put this type of battery on, where it's on a concrete pad. The units are separated, like we were saying, by those whatever the distances that are recommended by the UL 9540A testing. So if one unit's involved, that should be the worst case scenario, where it's the one unit. These fires have happened, and it's contained to the one unit. So I would say that's probably your worst case. That's your worst case scenario, as far as I can see, is you have a fully involved unit. You have a fire that lasts 4 hours. I can't say for sure it's 4 hours. It could be less or more. But once those cells within the within that unit burn off, you really don't have a problem anymore. And it actually makes the cleanup that much easier.
Okay.
Like even for EVs, I train the firefighters, if you can just let the thing burn, which isn't always, if it's in a parking garage, you can, of course, but if it's out in the middle of nowhere, just let it burn itself out, and it kind of solves its own
Do you
problem.
recall, or does somebody recall when the Moss Landing unit was built? When the technology was put in at that time?
It's either 20 or 21, I'm not positive.
Yeah, okay. So part of, part of having people come back for an extension is for this commission and staff to look and say, is everything more or less the same as it was before? Or have things changed in the universe in some way that it's acceptable or less acceptable or more acceptable? So it would be your stance that since the original approval, even with our understanding, our limited understanding of what happened at Moss Landing and the ramifications thereof, that the technology has advanced substantially in that time period since we first approved this, and substantially since Moss Landing was dropped in their unit, in their site. So even though things have changed for this body to do an extension, that in essence, so is the technology and the safety. Is that the stance?
It's greatly improved.
That's correct. There we go. We got a line of people saying so. Well, thank you very much. Any further questions for the applicants at this time? No. Okay. Then we are going to move on to we're going to open this meeting to the public. And you said we had 3 written communications. I'm not sure I have those 3 either, but that's right. 2 for, and 1 against. Yeah. Okay. All right. How about public comment? Do we have any public comment slips on this particular item? Okay. Seeing none. And we don't need to do rebuttals then. Questions of the public or applicant from commissioners. I think we've done that. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to, yes? Oh, these are the 3. Thank you. Then we'll go ahead and bring this back to the commission and any comments or ultimately motions. Who wants to start? All right, Commissioner Seifert.
Thank you, Chair.
He's been volunteered.
First off, I'd like to address Mr. Radford's letter. He states that the Santa Maria Times wrote an article saying there was no place within the city limits. I believe that was after the new ordinance. We did approve this before we made that new ordinance come into effect. I understand that with the new ordinance, the zoning is the only thing that would be the M1 versus the M2. Every other thing in that ordinance has been met. So he also states that the property has been poorly maintained, which you can see. We have a fully vetted landscape plan here that's going to do nothing but improve that particular piece of property. He is a neighbor across the street. So in one respect, he will be getting some trees, and I'm guessing that the maintenance will be taken care of on the inside of the property. I'm sure they're going to make sure that there's no weeds and that kind of thing. So the landscaping should be actually an improvement. We did approve this before we put the other ordinance with the zoning in effect. So I tend to stay with that original decision. I'm quite happy to hear with the improvements that we've made to this particular system. I'm familiar with batteries, LiPo batteries. I do remote control stuff, and all this stuff has moved to batteries. And there is always a big concern about fires, charging, making sure that it's in a safe area. That's why I was questioning the 12 feet. Generally on a residential, we have 10 feet between homes. If there's an engulfed house, you would have that 10-foot barrier. In this, we have 12 foot. Apparently, according to the fireman, that is going to be an adequate space. It seems like we've changed batteries and changed the makeup of the batteries to the point where we're a much safer chemical makeup if something was to happen. It looks like it looks as safe as we can get it in today's age. If you're monitoring every cell, that was a key one for me because I know that each cell reacts on its own. So if it was just monitoring the unit, we could have all the cells be going off before anybody knew anything about it. So at least this way, and then with your verification that it can be just one cell, it doesn't have to transfer, run away to the other cells. So that gives me some comfort there. The one thing that I didn't really ask about, we're only getting a third households for 4 hours, but I guess that's at max use. So, you know, with the problems that we're having in our grid, with the additions of all the electric cars, electric vehicles, electric everything, you know, some cities have gone as far as to ban natural propane or natural gas into our units. We're going to be solely dependent on electrical, which I'm not exactly in favor of. I like to have a backup. So we're going to have to do something to increase our grid, increase our availability of power, because more and more people are going to be using this power, and we're going to be depending on it. We're going from gas HVAC units to electrical HVAC units, heating, cooling. We're going from gas-powered stoves to electrical stoves. So basically, electrical water heaters. So basically, if we have a power outage, nothing in your home is going to work anymore. It used to be that you could go out to the water heater, get your lighter, light your natural gas water heater, get your water heater going. You could still have you could go out and light a match, and your stove, your range would work. You could still at least have some way to sustain yourself. But with the way that the world's changing and the dependency on electrical, you know, we're really boxing ourselves in. I like to have a secondary, but I'm just one vote. So I like what I've heard here tonight. I think you have done all of your due diligence to make the case for continuing this permit. I see that you've, after we gave you the approval, you've purchased the land, you've made a significant amount of plans, you've spent a lot of money on this project, and we did give you the initial approval to do it. So I can see supporting this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, based on the criteria for the extension of the due diligence and showing progress of moving forward towards the construction of this, my only hesitation was the safety element, and I think it was pretty clear yesterday that there's a lot of thought that's gone into this, and even today I was hoping to see a picture of what the units would look like. Not quite sure what the fire hose connector was. I was going to ask that, but it seems like it's another redundancy for fire suppression or fire control. So I think I'm comfortable with that. I think it meets the criteria for a time extension.
Thank you very much. Commissioner?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I concur with what Commissioner Seifert said. He put a lot of thoughts out there, which I agree with. It was good to hear the presentation on sort of how much has gone into it. Looks like a lot of time has been spent on it, a lot of money, and it sounds like they're moving forward pretty well. So based on that and based on a lot of the safety information that we heard and fire suppression, looks like they brought on board the right people to address all of the safety concerns, which is really reassuring. So yeah, based on that and the progress, I feel like this is something I could support. I could support the extension of time for this project. So, yep.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Chair, I'm going to have to piggyback off of the other commissioners. You know, I think that, oh, thank you. I think that you guys put a lot of thought into the, safety of it all, and that was a big concern for our community. And I really appreciate you bringing ESRG to really walk us through what that looks like in terms of fire suppression, and just for the the fact of due diligence. I can see the request for extension criteria being met in that regard as well. So again, I can second the commissioners, and I can support.
Thank you. When we first started looking at the ordinances and the new ordinance that we put through, of course, we had what was going on up in Moss Landing, and we didn't have anybody really explaining the new technologies that have advanced the things, and we did not understand what the ramifications of the problems they had up in Moss Landing were going to be. And I gather we still don't quite understand it yet. I mean, it still hasn't completely been studied. That being said, we went into this hearing this evening. I was all about the safety. I want to make sure that whatever we do, that to the best of our ability, this body has made sure that our population is safe from a project that's moving forward. And as I stated a few minutes ago, the reason for these type of hearings is in case the landscape has changed in some way. The landscape has changed. It's changed substantially because of Moss Landing, and this industry appears to have met that challenge and done a tremendous amount to advance the technology, advance the safety of the technology, and how these units are built. Hopefully that will be the case when future projects come forward, that we have people who have looked at the technology and looked at the safety, and will be able to have a lot of safe units throughout the city. As it is right now, we're just dealing with this one, and I also, like the other commissioners, could see supporting this extension. So, with that being said, I need a motion of some kind.
Chair, I'd make a motion. I, by motion, approve time extension. Oh. I'm going to start over. I would, by motion, approve time extension A2025-004, granting a 2-year time extension for plan development permit PD 2021-0012.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
I need a roll call.
Commissioner Sievert,
Aye.
Commissioner Blanco,
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez,
Aye.
Commissioner Mohajer,
Aye.
Chair Dickerson.
Aye. Congratulations. Yeah. Good luck. As stated, we are going to move 5B, the splash and dash, to after 5C, the zoning text amendment. So let's do the zoning text amendment for accessory dwelling units, Title 12 of the City of Santa Maria Municipal Code. And can we hear from staff?
Yes, thank you, Chair Dickerson and members of the commission. My name is Dana Eady, Planning Division Manager, and I'm going to be presenting to you the proposed zoning text amendments to Title 12, Chapter 1256 for accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units. We had a study session on this item on April 17th. And so this is just following from that study session, and there haven't been any changes since we last talked about it at the study session. So in January of this year, there were 3 pieces of legislature. There was an Assembly bill and 2 Senate bills that affected the accessory dwelling unit and junior accessory dwelling unit law, state law. And so as a result of that, we are proposing to make some changes to the existing ordinance to comply with the state law. So the first item is related to detached ADUs that are located on a lot that has an existing multifamily dwelling. This is one of, I think, the biggest changes under the new state law. And previously, you could build 2 detached ADUs. And now, if you have a lot with an existing dwelling, not building one, you have an existing one, you can go up to 8 accessory dwelling units that are detached, but the number is limited to the total number of existing units on the lot. So if the existing multifamily dwelling unit has, for example, 4 units, the maximum number of detached ADUs that you could have would be 4. You can't exceed the number of existing units on the lot. And you can't go beyond 8 units either. If an applicant or property owner is proposing a new multifamily dwelling, then the number of detached ADUs you can have is still limited to 2. You're not allowed to go above that. So the second item is just a clarification that was added, and it's related to being able to sell accessory dwelling units separately from the lot or from the primary dwelling unit. You cannot do that except as provided within the government code. So there's Article 4, and it's the section 66340, and that's where it discusses circumstances that you can separately sell an ADU. And there are quite a few provisions to be able to do that. It's really focused on, first of all, the ADU has to be built or developed by a qualified nonprofit corporation. And so there's a specific definition in the government code that talks about, for example, a 501c3. And then beyond that, there's affordability requirements for the ADU. So it has to be deed restricted for affordable housing for 45 years. The qualified buyer has to occupy the ADU or the primary residence. And kind of the list goes on. So at this time, we haven't had anyone approach the city and ask to do this, but our ordinance just needs to include that underlined language that I have there on this slide, that it is possible if someone could comply with that section. And then there's another item that addresses the city's ability to deny a permit to legalize an unpermitted accessory dwelling unit or junior accessory dwelling unit that was constructed before January 1st of 2020. And that's in violation of some sort of building standard or local standard. The exception to that is that if the city finds that correcting the violation is necessary to comply with, for example, the health and safety code. So if there is something about the violation, for example, if it's construction related that would result in a health and safety concern, the city can find that that has to be corrected for the ADU to be approved. So that's also now included in our ordinance. It's a clarification on that. And then the last item is related to Senate Bill 477. This was actually from 2024. In 2024, the state reorganized the government code, which essentially resulted in a complete renumbering of the regulations within the government code. And so our existing ordinance has been referencing the prior government code sections. So with this update, we're just cleaning it up, and we are now replacing any of the old references to the state law with the current sections of state law. And so that completes the proposed changes. The staff recommendation is that by resolution, recommend that the City Council approve the zoning text amendment Z 2025-001. And I'm available for any questions that you have. So thank you.
Questions for staff? Mr. Seifert.
Question, Chair.
Commissioner Seifert.
So Dana, I just, I think I made my feelings clear on these ADUs and the proliferation of them in the past with our utility companies, our sewer, water, electrical, all the power grid, everything else. But when we say that we can, so let's say we have an 8-unit apartment building and they have the required number of parking spaces, and can they use, where do they get the property to put these ADUs? Can they utilize parking? I mean, does the new ADU zoning also reduce parking? I mean, because I know with the TANA part, what kind of impact, it's just a question. I mean, theoretically, where are they going to get the land to do this?
Yeah, Commissioner Seifert, it's really going to be very much site-specific, especially because the requirement is that it's for an existing multifamily dwelling. They would need to look for areas that could meet the setbacks on the property. So there's still the 4-foot setback from the property lines. There are landscaping requirements that would be in effect for the existing project. I think it would take some planning to figure out a location where these could go on certain properties. Parking areas could potentially be looked at for a detached ADU, but I would need to look closer into the government code to find out if that could occur. Because what we're finding as we review these specific building permits is they're all very much different. And in some cases, I actually reach out to state HCD to ask questions about a specific project as to whether it meets the state law or not. This is new, so we have had a few come in with 2, for example, the 2 detached, and they've been able to find area to do that in certain circumstances, but we don't see very many of those. I think what's more common is in the single family, doing a detached ADU in the backyard or an attached ADU or converting space. We haven't had very many of these multifamily ADU projects come in to the city. So it's going to be something that we as staff look at closely, and we may need to ask questions.
All right, I was just wondering, so thank you. That's it, Chair.
Any other questions for staff? No? Any public comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring this thing back to the commission for comments, and I guess we need a motion for a resolution. Does anyone make any comments or make a resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Planning
Excuse me, I'm
Commission...
sorry, Mr. Chair, maybe I was not paying attention, but could we make sure that there's no one in the public who wishes to speak?
I thought I did.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. There was a rush towards the written things, and then they all went outside for some reason.
Minnesota. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission by resolution recommend that the City Council approve zoning text amendment Z 2025-001.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, we'll need a roll call, please.
Commissioner Lopez,
Aye.
Commissioner Seifert,
Aye.
Commissioner Blanco,
Aye.
Commissioner Mohajer,
Aye.
Chair Dickerson.
I'll abstain. Okay, that is that. Now I understand that we have a couple of commissioners who want to scamper off into the mists. Is that right? Yeah, they don't want to. They don't want to. Okay.
Don't want to.
So Heather, do they need to give a reason why they're recusing for any reason?
Yes, if you could please go ahead and call the title of the item, and then each commissioner who's recusing can give a very brief statement as to the basis for their need to recuse.
Okay, it'd be the Splash and Dash Car Wash Plan Development Permit Amendment and Conditional Use Permit. Commissioner Lopez.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm going to recuse myself from this item. I have a business relationship with the project architect.
Thank you. Commissioner Mohajer.
Thank you, Chair. I'm also going to recuse. I believe my employer has a business relationship as well.
All right. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening while we suffer. See you tomorrow. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience, guys. I know you suffered a little bit more, so they didn't have to. Take it out on them. So, as I mentioned, this is the Plan Development Permit Amendment A 2024-0014 and Conditional Use Permit U 2025-0005. Can we hear from staff? Hi, Carol.
Hello. Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission, members of the public. My name is Carol Ziesenhenny. I'll be presenting the Splash and Dash Plan Development Permit Amendment and Conditional Use Permit this evening. The project site is located at 1703 South Bradley Road. So this is a request to modify a previous approval for a plan development permit that was before your Commission in 2018. So the request is to modify building elevations and the site plan. The applicant is also applying for a conditional use permit to allow a new drive-through pickup window for a cafe associated with the car wash. So drive-through uses do require a conditional use permit in the C2 district where this property is in. And previously the cafe was approved only as walk-up counter service for the car wash customers waiting for their vehicles while they're being detailed. So the project site is indicated with the yellow star here. It's in area 4 of the Enos Ranch specific plan. The specific plan was approved along with a supplemental environmental impact report by City Council in 2016. The specific plan included the Enos Ranch Shopping Center within Area 1, which is highlighted in red here along Betaravia Road, Costco, and Area 2 for warehouse retail, an auto center, which is the previously mentioned Area 4, and Area 3, which is the Enos Ranch West development you saw previously, along with residential and a school use, as well as a park. So the Enos Ranch specific plan also allows specific uses within Area 4 that include a single car wash facility with a caretaker unit and up to 10,000 square feet of ancillary retail. So this cafe, the cafe would be included in that ancillary retail component. The project site is bounded on all 4 sides with a general commercial zoning with plan development overlay and a freeway tower and auto sales overlay as well. Honda of Santa Maria occupies the adjoining property to the south. A future auto dealership will be located across Meehan Street to the north in this lighter area here where the cars are parked. Toyota is to the north of that pad. You can see a corner of the building there. Costco, as previously mentioned, is across the street, across Bradley Road, and a future retail pad will occupy the adjoining site just to the west. I'll quickly run through the previously approved plans for some background information. In 2018, Splash and Dash proposed a 14,000 square foot car wash facility with a caretaker's unit. There was a 3-lane queue for payment that could stack approximately 25 cars without impacting Meehan Street. The main entrance to that car wash is where my cursor is. This prior approval included a covered detail area where customers could wait for their vehicles inside the building, in the cafe seating area, or outside in the associated patio area. So the covered detail area is here, and then the cafe would be located on the northeastern side of the building, and then a mezzanine on the second floor would also allow for seating. A 1,000 square foot caretaker's unit was proposed on the second floor of the building with additional office and seating areas. And the caretaker unit is no longer proposed with this amendment before you this evening. This is indicating the landscape plan. It exceeded the required 15% landscape area coverage by providing 20% of landscape area. The specific plan does require street trees along Meehan Street with a double row of trees planted behind the sidewalk, in front of the sidewalk and behind the sidewalk. Those trees are installed along Meehan Street and will be protected in place for the construction of this project. And then we covered some of these elevations in the study session, so I'll keep it brief with this. The building was designed with a contemporary modern architectural style using stucco and corrugated metal with circular windows that propose a nautical theme. Additionally, there is a water tower feature that it has been incorporated into this new design before you this evening under review. And these are the floor plans. On the top here is the second floor, which was open to below so customers could see their cars while they're being detailed. They could sit and enjoy a cafe, and a caretaker apartment was just to the off to the side here for staff to live there. And then on the ground floor is the cafe, as previously mentioned. So switching over to the proposal before you this evening, the project includes a car wash tunnel, ancillary weight room, restrooms, and a solar carport to cover the vacuum and dry down areas. These dry down areas are self-serve only, so the detail service area was removed, as was the caretaker unit and the mezzanine observation area. Instead, a new car wash customer cafe, it's 1,000 square feet, is incorporated with a drive-through lane and order window. The drive-through lane is also used as a no-pay exit for customers who do not wish to purchase a car wash, and alternately, if someone wants to purchase a membership, they could also consult there. A balcony area is open to the public, so with removal of mezzanine, there's still a second floor viewing area on the outside. Security office and the water tower, as I mentioned, are still to remain. The proposal included a design where a future cellular carrier could be accommodated, but that is not part of this permit. It would be a separate approval via a conditional use permit, and possibly a plan development permit to increase the height of that water tower would be required at a future hearing. So without further ado, this is the new proposal for the car wash. The circulation is largely the same. From the 2018 version, cars would still enter from the westbound or the westerly Meehan Street entrance. They'd be directed through to the PEG kiosk, where automated arms would raise and lower to control traffic. The cafe order line is just directly to the south, and it would continue to the pickup window. And there is plenty of thought that was put into this design for circulation, so customers can come back once they get their coffee, go through the car wash, or vice versa. And then there are covered dry down areas here with solar canopies. One thing I would like to mention is that there was a minor change to the design of the solar canopies to accommodate structural requirements. And so the plans before you in this presentation are slightly different from what you saw in your packet, but it's not a substantial change. You will see a slight difference. So parking, the required parking is met and is actually exceeded by one parking stall. This is a view of the floor plan. Ground floor would include the restrooms. Off to the left-hand side here would be the drive-down areas, and then a cafe with outdoor seating. Offices, which are facing the purchase pay windows. And then on the second floor, which would be, directly above the car wash entrance, is a security office, and then a deck above the restrooms, and then a cafe. There's no second floor access there. This proposal does also exceed the minimum required landscape area. It is providing 18% landscaping, which also includes the existing parkway landscaping. These are elevations showing the view from Meehan Street on the north, and then the view from Honda on the south. This is on the bottom here is where cars would queue up. They'd be shaded by a solar canopy. And then once they exit the car wash, they would go to another covered area, which is also equipped with solar. The water tower feature is proposed at 45 feet, which is 5 feet taller than the previous approval, but it still complies with the 45-foot maximum of the Enos Ranch specific plan. And then the tallest portion of the building itself is about approximately 36 feet. And this is a view looking across the street, or view from Bradley Road as if you're looking from Costco. So customers would be ordering on the left-hand side, going into the car wash tunnel, or going around to pay at the, or pick up their coffee at this window here for the cafe. This is a view from Shepherd Drive. This is the water tower. Cars can actually drive underneath these legs here, the tripod. And then the entrance to the cafe from the dry down area is just over here. And so the one thing to mention is the water tower is conditioned not to have any signage displayed on it. However, a general statement, Santa Maria established 1905, would be acceptable. And that is reflected in the conditions of approval in your staff report packet. The building is proposed with standing seam metal panels and concrete. It's consistent with the Enos Auto Center overall design and materials. The other auto dealerships also include ACM panels and metal, and this would be complementary to that. And then this is just a few artistic renderings showing the massing and the articulation of the building itself. And then finally, this is a view, side-by-side comparison of the previous approval on the left-hand side here, and then the proposal before you this evening on the right-hand side. So with that, that concludes staff's presentation. So staff recommends by motion that the Planning Commission approve Plan Development Permit Amendment A 2024-0014 and Conditional Use Permit U 2025-0005 with the updated solar canopy design as shown in the June 24th, 2025 staff presentation. So staff is available for any questions, and the applicant is here as well. Thank you.
No, okay. Let's go ahead and, oh, well, first of all, disclosure of any ex parte communication?
I've had none, Chair.
Nope, nor have I. Okay. Let's hear from the applicant, if they care to. It's you guys. Somebody draw a short straw. You under the bus. Here you go. Welcome to the meat grinders.
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. Guillermo Perez with Adam Architects. I'm the applicant with the owners for this project, and I mean, you guys have gone through it and seen it. If
We
you
have,
any,
just want to see if you have a presentation
Oh.
or if you wanted to add anything from staff, and then we'll ask you a bunch of grilling, well thought out questions.
Yeah, no, I think you guys have seen it enough. Not much has changed since the last
Oh, well,
time.
thanks.
We could have
deal.
done the walkthrough again, but I don't know. No, at this point we can answer some questions if it's directed towards
All right.
myself or.
Questions?
Thank you. Just to help you out a little bit here, Guillermo.
Yeah.
We did see this in study session.
Yes.
And so we have had an opportunity, I believe it was a full commission, to ask questions, see your walkthrough, see your beautiful architecture with your fly-through, with your 3D rendering. So we have had a chance to actually look at this, to ask questions, make any recommendations that we had. So we are very familiar with the new design. So it's not something that we're seeing for the first time tonight. So we have seen this, and I think that we all were, well, I'll speak for myself, excuse me. I was very happy to see what I saw with the new design. I didn't see anything that stuck out as a problem for me. As a matter of fact, I think I liked it better than the old design. The only thing that struck me tonight was I have a question and I have a comment. When I'm looking at your rendering, all of your high elements are in the blue. except the water tower. Did you choose that for a reason? Is that for signage in the future, or for the, is that, you're the artist on this job? Why did you pick that particular element not to be blue with the other high elements?
Yeah, and for one instance, it's going to be a separate on a separate conditional use permit. So we were really making the two masses in blue. We have the, you know, the entry points is what we call them, one for the cafe and one for the car wash, and the other blue would be a canopy, a solar canopy. So we really made those as part of what this project's, you know, the core of the project. But
I knew you'd have a good reason. I'm not an artist myself, so I figured that you had a good
yeah,
reason.
Yeah, it's definitely intentional, but it really is the entry points.
And I believe the water tower is under this permit, but the future use of a cell tower would be under the conditional use permit. So this element will be approved if it's approved tonight. So the water tower would be approved along with the car wash element.
It would be, okay.
Yes. And the question that I have, and probably goes back to the owner, I was just wondering, the drive-up window was a new element that we saw in study session. I don't have any issue with it. But I was wondering, you know, with all the technology that we have today, I see people running into Starbucks, picking up their thing off the counter and running out. Is that something that you're planning to have with an app, or some sort of way that when your customers are going through the car wash, they can, hey, you know what, I'd love a coffee on my way out, and get that thing ordered while they're in line, and then just zip right through there to speed up the service? I'm not much of a tech guy, but I still walk in and I'm the guy ordering and waiting 10 minutes. But I was just wondering if that was going to be part of your plan.
I think so, yes. I would say yes, even though we haven't had deep discussion about it, but we all know these things are pretty powerful, so it would be smart. If we don't have it now, we hopefully would. We just think it'd be more efficient.
Seems like it.
But we haven't really gone over it too much.
Yeah, get the thing built first, then worry about it. Yeah, you got to.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much you do on these.
Yeah.
That was it for me. I think it's a good project. We've been waiting for this thing to happen for quite a while. It's been a empty lot for a long time, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. So yeah, I can totally see supporting this project, and I think it's actually an improvement from the first development site plan that we saw. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Siebert. Commissioner Blanco.
Yeah, maybe question on just the vacuuming area. Is it a central vacuuming unit, or is it individual vacuums? Or it looked like it was a central vacuum unit.
It's central, and it's suspended across the frame. So we're kind of doubling up on that solar canopy to carry some of that.
Carry some of that load.
Yeah.
And noise levels, I know at some of the existing facilities that they're pretty noisy. Not that we have a lot of sensitive receptors, I guess, but are they going to be quieter, these units? I've heard that these central units tend to be quieter. Is that still the case?
Commissioner Blanco, so from my understanding with the Betaravia Plaza Chevron, these are typically the central engine is enclosed in a building or an enclosure of some sort. They don't have individual, you know, engines. When you put a quarter in, for example, at some of these self-service, they're running continuously and just in one centralized location. So you may receive some noise from the actual nozzles that are sucking things up through the vacuum hose, but they're not dispersed throughout the site. They would be in one centralized location, and that's easier to attenuate and plan for. So in general, yes, they would be much quieter than the individual canisters that you see just set out individually.
Okay, great. Yeah, it was the Betaravia site that I think we had a lot of back and forth with on the noise, and that was closer to, I believe, residential area. So there was more of a concern there, but I was curious if these would also be quieter. So thank you. And then the car displays out front, I guess I'm happy to see less cars displayed on the corner there. I think we've already got plenty of cars along that corridor. the original looked like it was going to be crowded at the corner, but now this looks like it's going to be a little bit more focused on, I think, 2 vehicles maximum or something like that. So I think that's good. Yeah, that's it. I think the redesign actually looks really good too, and the addition of the cafe, I guess with a lot of things these days, cafes go pretty well, so makes sense.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, I also think that this is a market improvement. The original one, I mean, we approved and whatnot, but it was boxy. It was just, really boxy. This thing, you've moved the boxes around, you've made it flow a little bit. I think staff has said that there was kind of a nautical theme. Is that right, or?
Originally?
No, how about the current one? Because, I mean, the current one seems much more, I don't know, kind of 50s retro, and, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what would you say this thing is?
Versus a nautical theme?
Yeah.
It really, I mean,
steampunk, something in between?
Yeah, I mean, we were seeing, we took the elements around and all the dealerships in the area, right? So I frequent that area pretty often. And you really taken some of the materiality and what it really wants to be and sort of marry the two, the car wash and the dealerships. But as far as picking a particular style, it was more just the hub is how we had seen it. Creating a space, because it is at a really prominent corner, especially leaving that Costco.
Right.
Right. But,
well, I agree with Commissioner Blanco also. I like how there's fewer cars on that corner. I think it makes it a lot cleaner look. The other thing I want to thank you and the owners for is, that tower. I really disliked that tower in the original one. I think it did not fit the rest of the architecture. I whined about it, and that's fine. But you guys have changed that. It looks much more modern, much more interesting. And from that standpoint, I think it flows with the rest of the building a whole lot better than it did. And I don't have an issue with the coloring because, frankly, that kind of, if you want to think in terms of that kind of space age sort of thing, it looks a lot cleaner and a lot more like something like that versus painting it or having this kind of Western theme that the original one did. So I think it's just a much nicer version of that. Overall, it's a real improvement, and I commend you guys for putting the time and the money to redo everything and rethink it and end up with what you ended up with. Nicely done, guys. So from that standpoint, let's see. That would be we've done all the questions. There's nothing, is there anybody, do we have any, no communications? Heather, take note. Okay. Questions to the public? None. Public hearing to be closed. Discussions.
Can I just mention one thing?
No.
I believe we were talking
Yes.
about the 10,000 square foot retail that was previously approved separate, or this is going to be taken from that for the development?
So it would be, yes, 1,000 square feet would be subtracted from the overall 10,000, so there'd be 9,000 square feet left. And the conditional use permit is to establish the drive-through use. So that's what the conditional use permit is for. Does that answer your question?
Was that what it was? Was it originally taking part of that, or is this separate because of the? I guess we didn't want to. I was thinking it was tied into.
So the caretaker unit, so the retail component was called out. So this is an ancillary retail use that is not a car wash.
Mm-hmm.
So my take and others may disagree that would be a component of that.
I only brought it up because that was the first I had heard of the subtraction of it, and I think that as we develop, we got like 4 other lots. We're probably hoping to have 10,000 square feet available to be able to do standalone retail. And I thought that when we got this one approved originally, it had a cafe in there that was about the same size, but it was kind of all attached in one building. So if it's not too much to ask, we would like to still have the 10,000 square feet available for the other 4 lots that we develop, because I think eventually we will have some type of a mixed use or something that will need the retail, and that the square footage that we're using that was approved previously for a cafe would just be this same cafe. If that could be considered, it would probably give us more flexibility, but I don't remember it being pulled from our total on the first go-round.
Dana or Carol? What are your thoughts? Was the 1,000 taken originally with the cafe?
So I'll have to do a little bit more research on the specifics, but from my recollection, the square footage was never discussed because it was the cafe was incorporated as a holistic part of the waiting area for the detail space.
It wasn't a business unto itself?
It wasn't its own separate, self-contained portion of the building, essentially. So in my mind, that's where the shift and the change happened. But I'm more than happy to look into this, into the square footage and the history of that.
And how would we handle that at this stage with what we have to do this evening versus moving forward with their project? I mean, I certainly understand if they use space, they should subtract the space. But if that wasn't done previously, then maybe there's some wiggle room there.
Chair Dickerson, Carol was just mentioning to me that this is not in the conditions of approval for this item. I think she's going to check to make sure. It's something that we can look into further from a staff standpoint. I understand there was a cafe component from the approved project. I just don't know off the top of my head what the square footage of that cafe was, but we can look into that further with our director as well and talk with the applicant more about it. I just don't think it affects necessarily this approval because there's no specific condition in the amendment saying that there's this limitation that's being applied to this particular amendment.
So we do not have to wait for you guys to come to an accord on it to move forward with this?
No, I don't believe you do because it's not in the conditions. It's not something that is going to necessarily hold them up. It's just it's a staff interpretation that if they are having concerns with, we can talk with them separately after this meeting and even loop in our director if we need to.
Okay, and out of curiosity, I mean, I don't know if it's you or if it's Heather that will answer this, but what if the two of you are in loggerheads? They really want their 1,000 square, you really want their 1,000 square. What happens at that point?
Well, I think we'll be able to come to an agreement once we look in, on the staff standpoint, look into further what the exact square footages are. I don't think we're talking about a lot of difference here between what was in the original and what is here now. I think there is potentially some kind of appeal process that's in the code if there's something that the director decides and then the applicant wants to appeal that, but I don't think we'll get to that point here. I think we can work this out.
So you guys won't get to some sort of gladiatorial games of any kind? All right. All right, because I'd like to see this thing moving forward. I mean, Commissioner?
I just had a question. Wasn't that 10,000 square foot on a completely separate lot that we were talking about? That the retail area, that was something that wasn't even concerning this lot, right?
Right. It was. I think it was a general use overlay, but this one was already approved. It was just we had 10,000 square feet for retail across all of those lots, depending on which ones we developed into the retail portion.
So what you're saying is that because this is a cafe, you don't want that, whatever the square footage of this cafe is, to take away from the other lot square footage?
Right, the other available 10,000 square feet of footage over the remaining lots that haven't been developed. Because we think that...
All right, but what if you decide you want a cafe on each of the lots? Are you going to ask for the 1,000 square feet not to be counted on those two?
No, we
Why
already
is
have
this
little
different?
mini cafes in each dealership, you know, the little kitchenettes and stuff, but that's all internal. This particular car wash was approved within that whole group, which always included a cafe inside of it. So it was earlier. So anything coming after that would be considered pure retail in our minds would be available to be subtracted with the 10,000 square feet. So if someone put in a Starbucks or some other little eatery under a mixed use, that would be retail that would go against the 10,000 square feet. I think the 10,000 square feet initially was just to make sure that we're not competing with Nick Tompkins' retail project up top. So we were in agreement with that.
Okay.
And as I remember it, it was a completely separate lot. I didn't know that the overlay included all these properties. I thought we were talking about 10,000 square foot on a different lot. It was like, I think you came to us, you wanted to make it into a parking lot at one time, and we objected on that. We didn't actually approve that. We said no, because we'd rather see you come in and actually build your 10,000 square foot retail than have another parking lot out there.
Right.
That's my memory of
Yep.
that. Yeah, so I mean,
Okay.
are you in agreement with what's been said here as far as if we go ahead and move forward?
Yeah, I'm sure we can work something out with staff. If they look at the square footage beforehand and then look at what we have now, you'll see that it's very similar to what we had.
Yeah, because this
Maybe it'd
property
be
always
less.
had a cafe, and
Yeah.
it was the other property that and I might be mistaken, that we had the 10,000 square foot retail on. That was my understanding at the time. I might be misunderstanding it, but that's what I was remembering.
I think it was available for any of the remaining lots could use a portion of that 10,000 square feet. I think the plan was that at some point we would have an eatery with a couple different healthy type food arrangements so the dealership personnel and people could all walk there. That was sort of the vision, and we thought 10,000 square feet is enough room for us to be able to accomplish that.
Okay, that's not the way I remember it, but it was quite a while ago, so
Yeah.
I thought it was specific to that one lot, but that's why I was a little confused. That's the only reason I'm asking the questions. So, but you're good to go with negotiating with staff?
Yeah.
We can move on this project.
And 9,000 or 10,000 square feet is more than enough space for a healthy eatery. I don't like the thought of it at all. No health, no healthy.
No health,
It's
yeah.
got to be fast food.
And I bring it up because one of my partners said, "Hey, you're not using any of that 10,000 square feet, are you?" I said, "No, we're not. That's already included." So that's why I'm actually mentioning it right now.
Okay. Well, it
I didn't
sounds like you
think-
guys will work it out.
I didn't
Yeah.
think they were, but there's other powers that be.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
So rolling back to closing the public hearing, are there any discussions? And then we're also going to need a motion.
Go ahead.
Well, I'll make a motion. By motion, I move that we approve Plan Development Permit Amendment A 2024-0014 and Conditional Use Permit U 2025-0005 with the updated solar canopy design as shown on the June 4th, 2025 staff presentation.
I'm sorry, do we need to say anything about this 1,000 square foot kerfuffle?
No, I don't think so. You're approving the project as proposed, and I think staff will work with the applicant on
Okay,
calculating the square footage for the future.
good enough. Can I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Blanco,
Aye.
Commissioner Seifert,
Aye.
Chair Dickerson.
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen. Good luck to you. Yep. Okay, let's see. Huh? But you yourself admitted you have no aesthetic sense whatsoever. So there you are. Oral reports from Planning Commission and staff. Hello.
Hello, thank you. So we are meeting for a study session tomorrow at 1:30 at Shepherd Hall. Just a heads up for you, we do have 2 items on the agenda tomorrow. One of them is a new daycare facility on Skyway Drive, and then there's one of the downtown projects that's proposed on Perlman Park is also on the agenda. So I've been coordinating with staff and with the applicants regarding presentations and time involved in the presentations because, for example, with Perlman, we've I know the applicant wants to do a presentation as well, and we want to make sure there's time for questions and discussion. So I've been working on that on my end, just to manage the time of the meeting. So I'd like to stay within that hour and a half if we can, but it's possible we may have to go a little bit longer, just to, if you have questions or want to talk about the items.
Okay, so you're trying to get in at 45 minutes per item, and then a little bit of slop time just in case?
Yeah, just because we want you and the other commissioners to be able to have time to look at the plans, think about it, ask questions, and not feel too rushed.
Okay.
And I did send an email out with an updated schedule for upcoming hearings, and I can also mention that tomorrow too.
Okay, yeah, for the others, that would be good.
Yeah, so thank you.
Okay, anything else? Item number 7, adjournment. There you go. Wake up, Kathleen.